Hello guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a 2D ragdoll character that actually stands in Unity. So I just started a new Unity project, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here and create a new empty game object. Let's call this game object ragdoll. So inside of here we're going to make the body parts of the ragdoll character. So let's start by adding a sprite. It's going to be a square sprite, and we're going to create a circle sprite. Circle. So of course the circle for the head and the squares for the body parts. So let's put the circle here. I'm going to put the circle inside the ragdoll game object and reset its position. Also of the ragdoll, I'll reset its position. Now let's put this up a bit and let's make the body parts. So just really quick, I'll create some body parts. I'll name them too because that's always useful. This is going to be the head, this is going to be the body, and then the body is going to be about this. Then let's just copy and paste it, and we create the upper left arm, and the upper left arm, let's rotate that to 90 degrees like this and place it around here. I'm going to make it a bit smaller like this and a bit shorter. Now I'm going to copy and paste it again, and I'm going to do lower left arm. Let's put it like this. I'm going to rotate it so it's on 0 degrees, the rotation. Now for the other arms, I'll just copy and paste it again, and this time going to flip it. Oops. I'm going to put the position here, and I'm going to rotate it like this. So it's going to be minus 90 degrees. Like this. And this is going to be the upper right arm. So then of course the lower right arm, and we put the lower right arm on 0 degrees too, about here, and make sure that the green arrow is always pointing where the arm should point in real life, because otherwise you'll get some problems later which you don't want. For example, problems with rotating the arm. Okay, so once you're done creating your character, if you would start the game, nothing should happen right now. It should just be like this. So that means that's good. That's a good thing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a box collider to everything but except the head. So just add a box collider, and if you want you could make the edges a bit smoother like this, but then you'll have to resize it a bit because you don't want you don't want it to be too big, the collider. So like this is good. And for the head you just want to add a circle collider to it. Now what we'll do is we'll add a rigid body to all of these components, just like this. Don't change anything in the rigid body. You can change the mass later. And what will happen now is when you start the game, they should just fall down because they're not connected to each other, like that. So let's add a ground really quick. Now what you will see is that the objects just fall on the ground and they're not connected to each other, which looks really silly. Okay, so now for connecting the body parts, what you'll do is you'll go to the head, game object, and search for hinge joint 2D. The first thing you'll do is you want to connect the head to the body. So just drag the body here in this slot and it will connect the rigid body. And uncheck this box. And what works for me is because you want to slide it somewhere else right now, but when you press here and drag it, it will just drag the whole head. So what works for me is just put this a bit lower and this too. And now what you want to do is you want to put it here because you want the head to rotate from this position. Now you want to use a few limits because you don't want the head to rotate like 360 degrees because that's not natural. It doesn't happen in real life. So I found out what works for me is -30 and 30. So this is going to look really weird, but what it means is it can go 30 degrees this way and 30 degrees that way. Now for the body we don't want any hinge joint, not right now. Now for the upper left arm, what you want to do is add a hinge joint, and then you want to add the body to the rigid body again, and just do the same thing. And you want to put this part to where your arm would normally rotate from. So just do that to the lower left arm too, but for the lower left arm you want to add a hinge joint, but the rigid body is going to be from the upper left arm because your lower arm is not connected to your body, but it's connected to your upper arm. And quickly I forgot to make a limit for this, so the limits that would work nicely for this would be -90 degrees and 90 degrees. And for this we could just ignore those limits and we'll have no limits, which means it would rotate 360 degrees. Okay, now just do that for every part and make sure for the lower leg to connect it to the upper leg. So now for the legs, I like to put a no limit for the upper legs because I think it looks pretty fun that the legs just go wherever they want. Okay, now that we're done with this, you'd see that the ragdoll would just be connected to each other, and now if I would drag the head a bit up, you can see it's not perfect, but you see what I mean. So the problem right now is that the colliders of the ragdoll are colliding with each other. So what we want is we want it not to collide with itself. But the problem with that is you can't just turn off the colliders, because if you would turn off the colliders, what would happen is, like you see right now, the ragdoll would just fall down. So what I did is I created a quick script. Let's just create it here. You want to create it on the ragdoll. Let's enable these colliders really quick. You want to create it on the ragdoll character, and let's call it IgnoreCollision. IgnoreCollision, create an ad. Once you created the script, just double click it and open it in Microsoft Visual Studio. Now I have a script that I have put in the description. I put all my scripts in the description and just copy and paste that script. I'll tell you what the script does. So the script in void start, it would get all the colliders, and the colliders are get components in children collider 2D, and for every collider it's going to do physics 2D ignore collision. So right now, if you would start the game, what you would see is that the body parts of the player, they wouldn't collide with each other like this. Perfect. Now let's go on to making the ragdoll actually stand. So what you want to do is you want to create a script. Let's call it StickmanController, and new script, create an ad. Double click the script and open it. Now what you want to do is you want to remove the start function, and we want to create a public variable for muscles. So muscle, and we want to put more game objects in it, so make it an array and we'll call it muscles, like this. Now down here we want to make it system serializable, and then inside of here we'll create another public class called muscle, like this. Perfect. Now after this we want to make a private update function, so make it private, and then inside that private update function we do for each muscle in muscles, we want it to activate the muscle, and we'll create that function inside of the other public class called muscle. So we want to just type muscle dot, we'll call it activate muscle. Right now it won't recognize it because we don't have any function called activate muscle. And now for in here we want to do public rigid body 2D called bone, because we want to add force to the rigid body. Now we create a public float variable called rest rotation, which I will explain in a bit, and then a public float variable called force. Now we want to create the activate muscle function, so public void activate muscle, open it, and then inside of there we want to put bone dot move rotation map f dot lerp angle, which we got here, and then bone dot rotation rest rotation, and then force times time dot delta time. So that's the script for making your ragdoll character stand, and what it does is it would just apply force to the rotation, to the rest rotation of the rigid body that you put. So just save that and go back into your Unity, and what you'll see right now is we have muscles here, what you can open, and the size you want to put that to 6 and press enter. Now let's open all of these elements, and then for the first one you want to drag in the head with a force of 10 because the head doesn't need a lot of force. Then the body with which gets a force of 150. You can play around with this if you want. And then we want to not do anything with the arms, but then the leg, so the upper left leg, the lower left leg, the upper right leg, and the lower right leg, and just put 150 for the force. So what will happen now if we start the game is our ragdoll character should stand. Oops. Okay, so what's this problem? Yeah, I see. What we did is we accidentally put the legs on the wrong side, which means we have to rotate them. And then of course we have to change the hinge joint too for those legs. Like put that on 0, and the lower leg, this goes here, and this goes here. Now it should work fine. So now we have a character that tries to stand up, what you can see, and to change this stuff of the arms you just have to change the limits of the rigid body like this. And basically you have your character right now. So it stands up, and we could play a bit with the platform it stands on, so make it go up, and it would just keep standing. And if you would disable this script, it would fall down, and if you would enable the script, it will stand again. And with the rest rotation, you can just, if you would change it, it would rotate where the force would go to. So with that you can make it walk like this via script, what I can show you in another video. But that basically was it. So if you have any other questions, just put them in the direction below. And that was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you can now finally make your ragdoll character stand. Bye!